Alan Quinlan is with us. Alan, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. How are you?
Homework for the off-season?
A little bit, yeah.
So we asked you for, are the rules you have to be on the field here or just, okay, so you were on the field for, these are your 5 favourite tries? 5 most important tries?
Ones that probably stand out.
How did you pick them?
So you had to be on the pitch.
What came to mind first? Well, I was in the squad for with the one in Bordeaux. I picked one from there. Woody had picked John Hayes' try against Toulouse in Bordeaux. I picked Roger's try there because it was an incredible team try. The ones that came to mind really, my international career was kind of heavily disrupted, obviously from 2003 with my shoulder injury at the World Cup. Got my way back into the squad. And then I had my knee injury in 2006, so I had a kind of a period there where it was a very successful period for Ireland, winning Triple Crowns and championships, up and kind of got back in 2006, 2007 for that World Cup in France. Didn't play there, so and then I kind of got back in again in 2008 and a bit of 2009, so I was in and out of the squad a fair bit, and some of that was injuries. I think Woody said, in fairness, he was very complimentary of what he said about me as a player, and it kind of made me think, God, yeah, if I was kind of more calmer, controlled, and probably not as hard on myself, I probably could have got the best out of myself, because from a talent point of view I probably had what was required to play consistently at that level. So there's...
Can I just... we didn't plan to talk about this, but that's a realisation that a lot of people don't come to, right?
Yeah.
Wayne Rooney has had a similar kind of like, he needs the anger, otherwise he won't be. But actually, that's nonsense. You didn't need to play.
I don't even think it was completely the anger, because that kind of perception is with me a little bit, because I would have liked to think that bit of fury and stuff helped me for sure.
But you can control that now.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of self-doubt and self-belief stuff as well, which can affect... do you feel comfortable? I always said this before, that when I went into Ireland squads, particularly in the earlier days, I didn't feel, I doubted myself. And I didn't, I remember even the France game in 2001 in Dublin. It's my first start in the Six Nations. It's kind of a dream come true. I was there as a kid watching matches.
Did they win 9-8? Do we miss a kick in the last few minutes?
Oh, we won 22-15.
Oh, okay, we win, okay.
I picked one Drico's try, where it was, he scores in the corner. There's a bit of controversy about the grounding and all that. But, I even look back at that game yesterday, and I think I was kind of standoffish. I was nervous about making a mistake. So a little bit of that was the mindset of being afraid to make mistakes. Obviously there's another element to that as well, about not looking after myself off the field, but not understanding the level of consistency you need to have around your training, because I always trained pretty hard, but probably inconsistently. I never went down and did a fitness session and didn't try hard. I always kind of pushed myself to the limit, but I probably, just to get myself in the best shape. And I think that was in 2003 where I'm 28, 29, and I'm thinking, it's late, but at least I'm here now. Everyone's fit and available for that World Cup. I was in great shape, really good condition. I was so much quicker than I realised I could be. Hence I scored the try and had the pace to go off that. So yeah, there's, of course, it brings back some kind of, God, I wish I had, I have 27 caps. Most of the lads I played with are 70, 80, 100 caps, or more. I
guess my question is, do you think that there'd be a role for you somewhere in rugby to have those conversations with people?
I don't know. What I would try and say to younger people is the younger players particularly, is to express the pressure and talk to people who've maybe been there, done that. Some people are more natural. Like, I always looked at Axel across the dressing room and went, God, I wish I was like Axel. He was just do your job type mentality. And you even hear Woody in the podcast talking about when we got drawn against Toulouse in 2000 in that semi-final in Bordeaux, which is kind of unthinkable stuff. God, that's a disaster mentally. Yeah, sure, that's us done. We'll get to a semi-final and it'll be a great trip to France. But Axel was the one who said, well, we'll just have to go and beat them. He had that kind of just calm mentality. And he would have been my under-20s captain in Shannon when I went into Shannon first. And I remember going, God, I want to be like him. I want to be calm and controlled. And look, he had Eddie Halvey and myself on either side of him in a back row, which you could say was incredibly talented back row. And we ended up playing for Munster for a period of time together. We dominated with Shannon in the All-Ireland League for a number of years. And you know, he was kind of in between me and Eddie, kind of keeping us calm and kind of giving us a bit of rope to go and play and just make an incredible line break or do something special. But it was just most parts of his game were nailed on, if you know what I mean. So yeah, like for sure, if I could, yeah, share that. With anyone playing sport, you want to try and be in a state that you're kind of not over animated or over anxious. Yeah, because anxiety brings tension, and
but you still need to access the fury, and you still need to access that, but just have a means of controlling it and releasing it when
for sure. Yeah. And the game is all sport has changed so much more nowadays because everybody has sports psychologists and people to help them, and coaches are much more understanding of the type of person you have. Not everybody's the same. You know, Declan Kidney would have been really good, I think, in a kind of a positive turnaround for me after 2000, because I probably was at that stage where I took things for granted and I expected, because I was talented, that I would just get picked on teams, and that happened a bit up to that point. But you know, I played the 6 pool games in 99-2000, and there's a break then from January to April. My form wasn't great with Shannon. Well, that was scrutinised heavily back then. We would have all went back and played with our clubs, and you know, I get to April and I'm dropped for the quarter-final against Stade Francais in Thomond Park, and I couldn't really see why.
Who came in for you?
Eddie Halvey came in, and you know, Eddie was unbelievably talented. So David Wallace, Eddie Halvey and Axel played in the back row, and I was on the bench, and that was my first big kind of blow. And of course, I didn't see the fault in myself. I kind of had a bit of bitterness with Declan, and you know, I came off the bench in the quarter-final, didn't come off the bench in Bordeaux, or didn't come off the bench in the final against Northampton. Ended up sitting down with Declan Kidney that summer, kind of opening up about the way I feel and how, you know, that anxiety and stuff like that, and also being honest and saying, look, I need to get more consistent in my training, my attitude and my mentality. And we got on like a house on fire, and he helped me so much. So my point here is, you know, obviously the coach has to look at not everybody with the same view. Some people do have a little bit more stress and pressure, and it's about getting the best out of them. But I would say, in the modern sport, everybody has that ability now, and somebody to talk to, or somebody to kind of who can see the players and go and have a chat with them and say, well, Joe Bloggs is a little bit more anxious, we need to keep him calm, and really kind of focus on your strengths. So one of the things I would have probably didn't understand is I always tried to focus on my weaknesses.
Yeah.
And I forgot what I was good at, and so many times people. Woody was one who he kind of pushed me to be on a tour in 2002 to New Zealand. He was always telling me, get the ball in your hands and just run, do something, because you can pass, you can offload. Whereas, you know, I thought, God, when I get up to the Ireland setup, I can't make a mistake here. So I was much more comfortable a lot with Munster, and certainly for young people, it's about, you know, figuring that out and asking people who have the experiences, and times are totally different nowadays. Even the approaches from coaches, how to deal with players, even in amateur sports, right across the board, is very good nowadays, I think.
Yeah, I know the point you're making about in the professional environment. There's definitely way more access to proper sports psychology and performance coaching, but it's even kind of earlier. It's like the 13 to 15 year olds who probably,
for sure. And how do you give someone who's lacking that little bit of confidence or ability to take the bull by the horns and run up that wing in a soccer match and take on his man, because he's really quick, he's quite skillful, and he's brilliant at crossing the ball? How do you make him believe that if he's kind of nervous about taking on his man, because he thinks, if I give the ball away here, you know, how do you tell a kid like that, just have a crack, and the next, if he if the defender takes the ball off you, do it again and again, and eventually, one of these runs that you make is going to lead to a goal, and it's the bigger picture, and it's just about breaking it down into small pieces like that, I think. So the point there about kids is coaches now can see a little bit. Their eyes are more open to one or two guys who have the potential and the ability. How do I give them confidence and make them believe that it is okay to make a mistake? I thought mistakes were what you were going to be judged by after the performance a lot when I was younger.
Well, they probably were.
Yeah, and
coaching
you know what?
has changed a lot. But
you know what? If you focus on all the mistakes you're going to make, you look at a 9 and a 10 now, a scrum half and an out half in a rugby match. They're going to handle the ball 70 or 80 times in a game. Are those 70 or 80 times they're going to touch the ball going to be brilliant moments? They're not. There's going to be 3 or 4 mistakes in there, and if you forget about the other 70 good moments where they delivered and kicked well, so it's about focusing on the positives and just getting it. I'm not saying that it was all negative. God, I look back at some of the Munster matches and even some of these tries, and I was like, wow, is that me in the field? I was actually playing brilliant here, and looked like I was grabbing the bull by the horns.
We should talk about this one then. So the first one is Ronan O'Gara versus Toulouse in 2000. This is in Bordeaux, and it's a semi-final of the Heineken Cup. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the semi-final when and Woody spoke about the John Hayes try, which was an incredible try, and this was a kind of against the odds kind of performance, and nobody expected a victory here. As I said, Toulouse were incredible squad. We were on the back of obviously a brilliant position of beating Saracens twice in the pool stages. It was just a phenomenal team score. I think it was a scrum outside the Munster 22. The ball was Hodge pass to Mikey Mullins, a little switch with Jason Holland. John Kelly comes in off the wing with another switch. He gets tackled on his back around the 10-yard line, pops it to Axel. He makes a break. Then Munster come back on the left-hand side to Anthony Horgan makes a break. And then it's back in field. And someone who was incredible for Munster back then was Dominic Crotty. He had played for Ireland when he was quite young. He was full back in this team. He handled the ball a number of times in all those phases, and he makes that unbelievable pacey run onto the ball near the end, gets half tackle and pops it up to Rog, and it's a try under the post. It's a phenomenal score if people look back and watch it. Like team score. Yeah, it is. And the one thing that kind of jumped out at me is Toulouse never got to the point where they could get their defensive line set if you watch it. Roger's ability to run onto the ball was superb, and his timing, and then being able to deliver passes and stuff like that. If you look back at the back line that day, Mikey Mullins was again somebody probably a bit like me in the sense that Mikey lacked a bit of confidence at times, but when you gave him that confidence and ability, he was brilliant for Munster. He was part of the reason why we came back over in Saracens in Vicarage Road that season and turned around a big deficit at half time to win that game. He was just superb. But that for me was a try that just comes to mind straight away. John Hayes' try was similar. John is on the ground. Woody picked that one. Woody's incredible run up the touchline. And Keith Wood and John Langford were phenomenal for Munster that year.
Same game. Yeah, Woody makes the charge up for John Hayes' try up the wing, pulled his calf. But both Langford and Woody they brought us to a different level, and that was kind of a very significant period of time for that whole group about moving on to the next level and understanding professionalism and what was required and stuff, and they were really central to that, Woody and John Langford. Because obviously Keith Wood was just coming back from Harlequins for that 1 year.
Yeah, for 1 year, and he was brilliant, and I think we started to believe in ourselves, and like I said, the Axel comment of we'll just have to go and beat him, and it was one that stands out for a lot of people, in
particularly the Munster supporters as well, who went to Bordeaux. Obviously there was heartache in the final, but watch that try back. It's a sensational score.
He scored 21 points, Rog, in that game.
His kicking was brilliant.
Unbelievable.
As well,
He's 23 years of age, but already a leader in the team.
Yeah, Jason Holland as well.
Yeah.
What a player. I again, looking back at some of these games, someone who came over playing club rugby with Middleton got called in 99-2000 season for World Cup warm-up against Ireland in Cork, because we couldn't find any players, and he went on to be absolutely brilliant for Munster.
Some game.
It was just a phenomenal game, and it was one that it was kind of baffling in the end, the rugby that was there, and if you look at the stars that they had, and even their physique a little bit towards maybe us. They're bigger, stronger, more athletic looking, but I think we were getting to, obviously there was a lot of fight and passion, but that Munster team was fit, getting fitter, getting stronger, becoming a bit more skillful. So I think it was a real important crossroads for that group that whole season, because that's on the back of, as I said, being to Vicarage Road, getting an incredible win over against Saracens, beating the Saracens at home. What a year it was. It ended up in disappointment in Northampton and in Twickenham in the final, but that was an incredible score from Rog.
Yeah, but the journey that the team is on at the end of that game, that's my first recollection ever of hearing the fields of Athenry at a rugby match, is when the Munster fans sing after the game in Twickenham, and it is a lament for something that's lost, but it's also a celebration of the fact that you're like the second best team in Europe / maybe the best. But I don't know, it was a moment in Munster's history where it's the birth of something really, really important. The style of play is also something.
Yeah, it's starting to improve, and it's different. It isn't all about just kicking it, but when you've two young halfbacks like Peter Stringer and Rog, and really good attacking centre in Mikey Mullins,
but you were all passing the ball.
Yeah, footballers as well, people who are trying to keep the ball alive as well, and not just kind of run straight at people. So it's definitely the start of something really positive.
Let's talk about the next one, is Draco versus France in 2001. So this is the game in Dublin you were talking about.
Yeah, you could pick, I was trying to go back in other Ireland games that I was involved in and pick out, other thries. But this one jumps out because it was my first start in Dublin, as I said, and I was probably shaking like a leaf when the anthems are happening and you're looking up at the crowd. But Draco obviously got the 3 tries the year before in Paris. This game is the first time in 40 years that Ireland have back-to-back wins against France. It's a really big kind of moment. Again, there's probably a bit of expectation that France win this game like they've done for the previous 10-12 years. I think Ireland hadn't beaten France in Dublin.
They usually hammered us.
Yeah, well, the ones in Dublin are a bit tighter. The ones in Paris were around that time, were, the year before, obviously, that trend was bucked. 98, I think it was very close as well under Warren Gatland. But again, looking back on it, I remember at the time thinking, God, Brian O'Driscoll is just phenomenal. He was making line breaks and stepping people in this game and going clear, if you like, right up to that point. He 2 clean line breaks, or 2 or 3 clean line breaks in that game up to that point. And I just remember the try was, again, it was inside our half, and Ireland, it was a scrum midfield, Ireland go left. Rob Henderson makes a bit of a show and go charge, gets through Olivia Manier, offloads to David Wallace, and again, Wally is this incredible ball carrier and has this acceleration and ability to defend, and he offloads a little inside pass to Draco, and then it's just pace.
Wally's pass is almost invisible.
Yeah,
it
is. On the replay, you have to go back and go, how did he get it?
But it's Draco's anticipation to kind of track the ball as well, and obviously he gets to the corner, and there's big debate.
Does he ground it as a pundit now? You can.
Well, I think if you look back on it now, and the downward pressure, fingertip stuff, and we see some of these tries that are scrutinised for a long time. And funnily enough, I couldn't remember at the time, there was a TMO. Brian Camsell, an English TMO, looked at that try, and it took him 3 minutes
So there's a big kind of break. 3 minutes is a long time now for somebody to looking back on a try over and over and over again. He gave the try because I think he felt there was fingertip pressure on it.
I've watched it 10 times there and I can't tell if he...
We were saying that.
Yeah, even watching it back, it's hard to judge it. I think there is a bit of fingertip pressure there. That's why he gave him, and it's kind of given the benefit of the doubt.
Well, I was going to say, we were saying at the weekend, Owen Cody has the amazing dribble where it's Cian Lynch who he sends to the shops with the dummy, and I think the referee gave him a free because it was so good.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like,
yeah.
No, sorry, that's.
Yeah. I think he gets a little bit of fingertips here, but look, there's so many tries you could pick for Drico. I just think the anticipation, the pace, and the ability as he was getting tackled by Christophe Lamazon into touch. It was brilliant. They had an incredibly strong side when you think of Philippe Bernard-Salle, Pelouse, Galtier, Serge Betson, Christophe Dominici. We've been
having this conversation.
Olivier Magnier.
This conversation has bubbled up about the best Irish rugby player, the greatest Irish rugby player of all time, and I would argue that without this period of time, that we wouldn't have had Johnny Sexton winning European Cups without O'Driscoll emerging. That, like, the hat-trick in Paris.
Well, it was about belief and confidence and actually thinking as Irish people you can go and win these games. So certainly the 3 tries that Drico scores in Paris, and it's just kind of like you're only 20 years of age and this is just normal. Then for other people coming through, that you've something to look at and a reference point to say, well, this Irish team or this team has done it. And it's a little bit like the provinces going to France for the first time, winning certain things. Because I remember that really well when we played. One of our goals in 97, 98 was to win for the first time in France. So Munster in the previous year or two had been to France in European games and been beaten by 40, 50 points. Yeah. So it's not about keeping the score down. It's actually saying we actually want to win there. Yeah. So we go to Colombia and win for the first time in France. I think it was 97, 98. And then you go, well, the next step is, okay, you're against Toulouse or you're against Biarritz or you're against Stade Francais. Can you go and beat them? So it's a process. And certainly that's a very, very valid point that, you know, maybe the foundations were dug for that platform.
We're splitting hairs, obviously, and it's an interesting debate. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but I do feel like you have to give extra kudos to the founding fathers of the whole thing. So the next one is Peter Stringer. You've got the assist for this one.
Yeah, I got an assist. I wasn't trying to put my own tries in. And again, I'd like to say I could easily put Woody's try against Saracens in there in 2000 in Thomond Park. It's the one where they score up the field in the 77th minute, and it looks like the crowd is silent, and we're not going to beat Saracens here. Saracens are going to win the game here in Thomond Park. Golov kind of pulls us together and literally says, we're going up the field, we're going to score. I can't really remember what happened. We got a penalty, we kicked down into the corner. I think we won the ball back from the kick-off, got a penalty, kicks into the corner, ball is thrown to the back of the line-out, and Maul is pulled down, and Woody just kind of accelerates this pick and go and scores. Rog kicks the penalty, we win by a point. So you talk about significant moments. That try by Woody and against Saracens in Thomond Park could easily pick that in there. But you know, Peter Stringer's try, this was on the back of the miracle match against Gloucester, where we had to do this insane situation against Gloucester to beat them by X number of points. We end up winning 33-6 and we get into the quarterfinals, and our reward is a trip to Welford Road against the champions who'd beaten us in the Millennium Stadium the year before.
The hand of Neil Back.
And we're thinking, God, that's some reward, isn't it, for for qualifying? But we'd lost 2 pool games in that year. We'd lost against Perpignan away. Well, round 1 against Gloucester, we're beaten 35-16, and that was a bit of an eye opener. They were the English champions. Gloucester, star-studded team: Trevor Woodman, Phil Vickery, Andy Gomersall, Tinas Delport, James Simpson, Daniel. All these guys were big names, and we went to Gloucester and got walloped in round 1. So we didn't start the competition well. Round round 2 we beat Perpignan at home, then we back-to-back games against Viadana, the Italian team, we beat them well. Round 5 we go to Perpignan, we're beaten again, so we're completely on the back foot. We've lost 2 games in which is risky, you know, that back then there was 6 rounds, so we had to, and Gloucester had been unbeaten. I think they had lost in Perpignan, so we had to beat them by X amount of points. We didn't know any of that stuff. It's kind of famous, but we go to Welford Road. We'll go back to that one in a minute because John Kelly scores that try. I picked that one. Peter Stringer's try, yeah, for me. Not because I had an assist at the end, but I just thought it just jumps out at me that was a really special day. There's certain games over the years that we could pick out, and all the lads, the Munster team in that era, would pick certain ones. There was a few ones on Saturday nights in Cass that were seen to be a regular occurrence. They were ones they're in my memory, but this try, because it was against a really powerful, strong Leicester side.
Oh yeah.
They went on. A lot of these fellas are winning a World Cup a number of months later. You know, they'd Neil Back, Martin Corrie, Ben Kay, Johnson, Austin Healy. Tom Tierney actually was scrum half that day,
right,
for Leicester. Jordan Murphy was playing, Leon Lyde, Tim Stimson, all these guys. Very strong side, and they don't lose in Welford Road. So again, the mentality that you mentioned there was pretty strong. We gave ourselves a real good chance there. We knew we had to find a performance, and crazily enough, I think it's 3-0 at half time to Munster. You know, you're thinking you're going to have an open game here and a lot of scoring, so we're winning 3-0. Then we go 6-0 in the 56th minute, and then they score a try, I think after that, Steve Booth, and unfortunately he's passed away as well. There's 3 people that played that day: Steve Booth, Tom Tierney and Anthony Foley, and all from heart disease, which is incredible to think that those 3 people on the field that are not around anymore. Steve Booth scored a try and they go 7-6. Then Rog gets a try, and I think our reaction, our performance and our intensity that day was phenomenal. So we're winning 13-7, and we've a scrum in our half, and Rog makes a little bit of a break and gets tackled, but pops the ball up to Rob Henderson in the tackle.
Yeah.
And then he, in turn...
Sorry, was that surprise that you were expressing there about Ron McGarr making a break?
No, but Rog, there was a perception that Rog, he didn't make a break. He runs at the line and found a bit of space and got leg tackled, but on his back kind of pops the ball up. Because, you know, sometimes people think Rog didn't run with the ball. He was actually really good at running on, get his timing well onto the ball. And attacked it unbelievably well, pops it up to Rob Henderson, who then does a bit of a shimmy, passes it to Mike Mullins, who kind of goes on the outside and gives this kind of basketball pass back in the inside to me.
You did well to catch it, actually. He throws it at you at a bit of an awkward enough height.
Yeah, and literally I'm kind of getting rap tack, and I think Neil Back is one of them, and I'm shocked that I can get this little pop pass to Stringer, who comes on my shoulder, and it was one of those ones where you're, wow, this is it. We had a maul right at the end of that game, and you know, Leicester were the team who we probably would have looked up to. We had a lot of similarities. We had a maul in the end of that game where we mauled Leicester about 20 yards up the field, and it was one of those ones where the Munster fans are just singing, chanting. It's incredible. And that happened in Welford Road. So it was a wonderful performance. It was absolutely brilliant. Everybody was on it that day, and that try from Stringer kind of summed it up at the end. So it was one that stood out for me, and it was really special. Great shot of Peter Clohessy at the end of the crowd, kind of going mad, you know, and showing that emotion.
Had he retired, or?
Yeah, he retired the year before, and so it was a really special day. But obviously you don't win trophies, and we went to Toulouse then in the semi-final. We were beaten 13-12, and there was a home final in Dublin, so we were whiskers away from being in a final. And Leinster, actually, funnily enough, were on the other side, and they lost to Perpignan in Dublin. which I think they lost 22-15 or 21-17 or something like that to Perpignan in the other semi-final in Dublin, and it ended up being two French teams in Dublin with a small crowd, and Toulouse won it.
Toulouse beat you by a point in the semi.
Toulouse beat us by a point in Toulouse, 13-12. Again, a couple of drop goals in the end that were missed. Jeremy Staunton had one or two, I think, and very, very tight game. It was we were a whisker away from probably being in the final and probably, winning the tournament, so very close, but that was a really significant try from Peter Stringer.
You weren't wrong about Welford Road. Two teams had won there in 5 years, which is insane to think of. 4,000 Munster fans there to watch it,
and a very strong team, and the scenes at the end, we're out on the pitch, and all the Munster fans are kind of there. So very special moments, and it was a great try, I think.
So next we have John Kelly's try versus Gloucester in the miracle match that same season.
No glitz or glamour about this. I just think significance, really, and the importance of this try. Again, the messages are starting to come onto the field about what needs to happen when we score two tries in the first half. Mick O'Driscoll gets one midway through the second half, and then we're kind of pushing for that fourth try, and suddenly the messages are coming on: keep going, don't concede any points, but keep pushing on. And I'd say 90% of the team didn't know what the scoreline. We had to win by 27 points in the end or more, and we did that. We won by 27 points. But this try at the end, we had a penalty. Rog kicked it into the corner. Frankie Sheehan throws the ball to the back of the line-out. So we had this line-out where we moved the whole back row up to the front of the line-out. So Jim Williams, myself and Anthony Foley were at the front, and we moved some of our second rows to the back of the line-out. So the ball is thrown to Donnacha O'Callaghan to tail. Axel peels around, pops at the stringer, and he hits Jason Holland and Mike Mullins in midfield, and we set up this maul. And we kind of are driving them, Gloucester, right back towards the goal line, and we need this for a try, and they pull it down. It looks like they're turning the ball over. It's a bit kamikaze because there's fellas coming in from all sides and all angles, and the ball comes back out. It's popped up to Jeremy Staunton. He makes a little dart for the line, rolls it back through his legs, and then Stringer sweeps it away to Rog, and he passed to John Kelly, and it's unbelievable. It's phenomenal. We've got that fourth try. He kicks the conversion, and we had those incredible scenes. They make the video about the game, but none of that was really. We weren't really conscious of any of that. It's amazing when you're out in the field, and to look back at the old stadium and the supporters, and even looking back on it yesterday, I was seeing people I knew, and what it meant to them, and how exciting it was, and what an atmosphere it was. So it was a really significant try. John had scored one in the first half. Mossy Lawler scored one in the first half, but that really was obviously a crucial try for us to put us into the quarterfinals, to be able to go to Welford Road.
Roger always said that he didn't know before he took that kick that it was so significant. Were you aware, or any of
No idea. Okay. I think after Rog kicked the ball, there was a lot of messages coming on then. Don't concede. Don't. And I gave away. Would you believe I gave away a penalty very shortly after that, outside the 22. I'm trying to poach a ball from a Gloucester player. I'm penalised, which genuinely I think I shouldn't have been penalised. I should have got the penalty. The players holding on the ground, but it's one of those ones where you say nowadays to people, just let them have it. Don't contest the ball. If you're winning in a game, just let them have it. Just let them have it. My mentality wasn't just let them have it. Here's a turnover for me, and I was penalised. If Gloucester had stopped and paused and actually
thought about it,
let Ludic Mercier kick the ball over the bar, they would have went through to the quarterfinals. We were out. That penalty would have put
communication wasn't great there.
No, they didn't really know either. So Andy Gormestle gets the ball and he taps and goes really quickly, because they're now 33-6 down in the game. But really, if they knew and understood themselves, nobody saw this happening, Shane. They didn't see it, we didn't see it. I remember the night before this game, Mick Galway wasn't starting, but he was the squad captain, and obviously a great leader for us. And like the night before, it was a case of, it's going to be really difficult to beat this Gloucester team at home here, but we owe it to the fans and ourselves to get a performance. And it was a very emotional kind of Friday night meeting, and we were incredibly pumped for that game. It was phenomenal. Looking back and kind of the work rate and the intensity of the players, it was brilliant to see. And but the significance, really, we didn't know anything about the scorelines. There was talk about game plans that were lost in taxis, and we had the Gloucester game plan, or all news to me at the time, you know what I mean? But it was a brilliant win, a very special day again.
So the taxi story was untrue?
Someone is claiming it's true, but we had no idea of any sort of situation of game plans or anything like that. That never filtered through to us. But it was a lovely day and a really special day, and we had a great night in Limerick afterwards. And as I said, we had a great win in Welford Road after that, and then the disappointment of the semi-final against Toulouse.
It's all part of the journey to get to a point where you do eventually get over the line. You haven't picked one from the first year you get over the line. You've picked one from the second one at Dennis Levy.
Well, again, I could pick Stringer's one against. I love the Serge Betts, the try after scrum where Stringer goes around Serge Betts in 06, and that really seals. It doesn't seal the game, but I think it was a brilliant piece of work from Peter Stringer to kind of dummy one way and obviously to catch such a brilliant player, Serge Betson, who was a tackling machine. A great try that game in 06. I just loved the fact in 2008 in the final against Toulouse, Dennis Leamy he was a monster, really. I remember Graham Henry in 2006 describing him as such when he played test match against New Zealand in Hamilton. Graham Henry spoke in the press conference afterwards about Dennis Leamy being the best number 8 in the world. He was phenomenal. Had his injuries, very unfortunate injuries with his knees, but we were a different team probably in that 08 game, because you had Doug Howlett and Maffey and Topoki, as opposed to the difference in maybe Trevor Halstead and John Kelly played in the centres the 2 years previous. And no disrespect to them, Halstead and John Kelly were brilliant, and that game plan and structure beating Biarritz in 06 was perfect. But 08 was a little bit different. When you had those type of players, you just want to try and give them the ball, and we scored some brilliant tries that year with that Munster team. We had a really hard group in the pool stages with Wasps and Clermont-Ferrand at the time, but probably nearly lost. It didn't. The semi-final in Coventry against Saracens was one where we were favourites, heavy favourites, and in the end we're kind of lucky to get through it. They possibly were claiming a penalty right at the end of the game that they could have kicked and put us out, but we get to the final in 08. Again, it's a kind of drab affair because it's fairly low scoring.
Is it the Stade de France?
No, it's in Millennium Stadium against Toulouse again. Yeah, it's the second time we're back there in 2008, and Toulouse are 3-0 up, and we get down close to their line, and Toulouse end up with a 5-metre scrum defending. We kind of twist the scrum around, it's reset again, then the Toulouse go again, and I think it was the scrum twist again, and I tackle Sean Sorby, their number 8 South African, kind of on the line. We get the scrum, and then Leamy breaks off the back of the scrum, and we go infield, and there's a bit of picking and going for a number of minutes, and it was really just...
It's a forwards try.
It's a forwards try, but you know what? It's a dogged, hard-working, and I was getting a little bit of an adrenaline rush watching this again. And I remember at the time just the atmosphere.
There's a little bit of narkiness between you and the back row in the...
A little bit, yeah. Well, look, I think Toulouse were phenomenal, and we had incredible respect for them.
They were basically the French international side.
Yeah, they were, and I think, but we felt really, we were in a good place. We started picking and going in the 71st minute, which is pretty famous. Every time I meet any of the Toulouse players now, they go pick and go, pick and go, pick and go. And it was crazy. Tomas O'Leary had come in for Peter and played in the quarter-final, semi-final and final. And he started kind of, off you go forwards, out in the... inside the Toulouse half, and we're about trying to see out the game. Anyway, that's if you look back on that, it was crazy. But Leamy's try there was one of, it was a real statement of intent. The scrum, the way we kind of pushed them back in a scrum, because you think of those earlier days, you think French scrum was going to kill us, and they're going to try, and they believe they're going to kill us. Now we're at a point in 2008, from that kind of journey from 96, 97 onwards for some of us, and now we're the ones who are
doing it to them,
are doing it to a French scrum, you know. So it's gone full circle really, and I just remember that try, brilliant. It was a great try, and it was scored by Dennis, who was just a phenomenal player. And we had a homegrown pack: Marcus Horn, Jerry Flannery, John Hayes, Donny O'Callaghan, Paul O'Connell, myself, Dennis, and Wally, which was
pretty impressive.
It was the Irish pack, bar me, because they were all. Simon Easterby was playing with all those guys for Ireland for a period of time, so they were great players to have around. You know, we had a great line out. Paul was on his game, you know, constantly. Donica, work rate through the roof. So it was a great team. And then, as you say, when you have Maffey and Taboki in the centre, they're special players. But we nearly lost the semi-final, but we thankfully got our hands on a second trophy that day.
Yeah, and Frank, the greatness of the team as well. I think a lot of people are going to be going down a YouTube wormhole as a result of the last...
Sorry there are not more Ireland tries in there, but I didn't play in enough of Ireland games where there was really significant tries in big Six Nations games or big, you know, test matches, but there's a few there that I could have easily picked. Hendo's 3 tries in Rome, they jump out at me. Couple of tries in the World Cup in 03 as well, and other Six Nations games. My favourite try of all, though, if I was not involved, was Mick Galway's try in 93 against England. He didn't have a lot to do when you look back at it now, but I remember being at that game. I think I was playing under 18s or under 20s with Shannon, and we went up on a bus from Limerick. We were in the terraces in the old Lansdowne Road, and again, this is a star-studded English side. Will Carling, Rob Andrew, Martin Bayfield, Jason Leonard, powerful English side, and Gallo gets that try at the end in the corner. He was with Shannon. He was someone I was kind of looked up to. His sister runs on the field, and that's just brilliant, giving him a big hug at the end. Mick Bradley makes a little half break and pops it up to Golov. Again, significant because I was there and I remember it really well.
Yep.
Some of these tries, you could pick any of the lads to come in and pick tries. It's ones that kind of you want to try and think in your mind. If I was to ask you straight up, what comes to mind first? So these are kind of the ones that came to mind.
You did a great job. It was perfect.
Okay, cheers.
Thank you very much.